Anywho, no time to sit around. We've got a galaxy to conquer.
Master!
Ah! Who is that? Who are you?
The nay is but the humble servant to Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith. I've prepared your bath, Master.
Conquer now, tubby time later. Let's go.
But my castle.
Oh, greetings once again, Bucketheads. Mayvar Tigar. Welcome to the 102nd Monster Mashing on Mustafar episode of Mandovision. Nargai Tom, and thank you so much for checking out this small, independent Star Wars podcast. Remember, the best way to reach out to us is, of course, via social media, because how else do you do things nowadays? We're at Mando_Vision on Twitter and Instagram. You can email the show at mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Please make sure you're liking, subscribing, following, sharing this show with all the other Mandalorians in your covert. It means so much to us. And if you're on Apple Podcasts and you have the time, sweet. 5-star reviews help us defeat the terror of the algorithm. Real quickly, I wanted to give a quick shout out because you may have noticed over the last few weeks, I've been letting the intro music play a bit longer than we have in prior episodes. And lately, there's a couple reasons for that. But the main one is I just wanted to show my gratitude to my friend Chris, who is in the band Dirty Sweet, who is the drummer for them. And I love hearing Chris pound out this song on his drums. And it's just a great rockin' song, and it really gets me fired up to do the podcast. So I've kind of been letting the song play a little bit more to get me even more amped up than usual. So a special shout out to my friend Chris and the band Dirty Sweet. By all means, check them out. They're on Spotify, GarageBand, iTunes, all that good stuff. Whatever you listen to music on, you can find Dirty Sweet. So a big shout out to them, and keep on rocking, gentlemen. Keep on rocking. All right, we're here. It is a big weekend for me. One of my favorite holidays is coming up on Sunday, and I don't know how everyone feels about Halloween in general, but I dig it. I have a lot of fun. I spend a lot of time watching. I try to find a good balance of old and new, kind of like, I'm going to say horror movies, but that's not exactly accurate. I like a lot of movies that might be sort of meta, sort of have a commentary about the horror genre. I also like creature movies, which aren't exactly necessarily the most scary things in the world either. So it's a fun time for me to watch. I revisit a lot of classics. I do like slasher films, I'm not going to lie there. But slasher films, especially the ones that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s, they're just funny now. They're just comedic. But you still enjoy them. There's still that nostalgia there, right? So you take that, you extrapolate from that, and you have a good time. So I revisit a few of those, try to find something new. And if you're like me and you like Halloween, and you like podcasts, head on over, check out the other show I do, the Tomcast Podcast. All this month long, we've been doing kind of Halloween-themed episodes, but not scary movies necessarily, like movies you can actually watch with a group of friends who might be scaredy cats, because I'm a scaredy cat. I am a big old scaredy cat. I'd like to watch horror movies, like those Conjuring movies. I like those movies, but I watch them in the day with the blinds open and my dog's in my lap, because I can't watch them at night alone. That's too much. That's too intense for me. But so we're not doing those movies. We're doing like some of the fun ones. Like we got a creature movie in there. We have a double feature meta commentary on horror. And I'll just say right now, we have Tucker and Dale versus Evil. We have Cabin in the Woods. We have our creature movie for this month. We have Deep Rising with Treat Williams, Trick or Treat Williams, if you will. And if you like Halloween, by all means check it out. Sorry, I didn't mean for this to be a long plug for another show. But I did want to put that out there because we're rolling into Halloween. Are you going out for Halloween? Are you doing anything for Halloween? Going to parties? Doing trick or treats? You got kids you're taking out? Your nephews, your nieces? Any of that thing? I hope everyone's going to have a good Halloween. Obviously, last year Halloween was a much more somber affair, much more restricted. But hopefully this year maybe things are going to get back a little bit more to normal. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. I do not get trick or treaters here. So usually I can't lie to my wife when I say that I bought candy for the kids. No, I bought it for myself. And the favorite, of course, out of the bag is the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. It is the perfect candy, in my humble opinion. All right, but enough about my candy likes, enough about horror movies. We're here, we have terrifying tales to talk about in the Star Wars universe because we're going to talk about Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales. And, we mentioned it, we didn't do a dedicated episode last year for the holiday special that Lego did for Star Wars. We mentioned it, we talked about it briefly. I really enjoyed it, I had a fun time with it. But I was really excited to see that they were doing a Terrifying Tales. And before I watched it, but I didn't watch a trailer for it or anything like that. I just sort of rolled into it with sort of a untainted perspective of what that special could be. And I was delighted by what I got to see, what I got to witness. And more importantly, and what we'll talk a little bit more about on the other side of the bumper, is I love that this story that they did for Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales draws so much from other material in the Star Wars galaxy, particularly Kevin Scott's, Tales from Vader's Castle, and Charles Soule's Knights of Ren book. The book, the Kylo Ren Knights of Ren comic that was out from Marvel. I guess it was about 2-ish years ago now. I think it came out right around the time Rise of Skywalker was coming out, and to draw so heavily from source material that I'm such a big fan of, I was like, what a treat. And then I'm sure those writers were delighted to see their names as a special thanks to in the credits. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side of the bumper. But let's kind of do our particulars right now before we do that. All right. So Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, directed by Ken Cunningham, and written by David Shane. My goodness, excuse me. Our cast for this episode, it's a veritable who's who on this cast for voice acting. AJ Locascio, Barbara Goodson, Christian Slater's in this as Ren, Dana Snyder, Danny Jacobs, David Accord, Eric Balza, Jake Green, James Arnold Taylor returns, John DiMaggio, another hard hitter in the voice acting world, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn, Matt Sloan, Matthew Wood, Sam Witwer, Shelby Young, Tony Hale, Trevor Duvall, Rafael Alejandro. Oh my goodness gracious, what a cast, and they all do such a fun job with this. I think they must have all had a blast. And it's always great to have Sam Witwer come back and be Darth Maul, because he has really just kind of taken over that voice acting performance and made it his own. And so now I don't think, us Star Wars fans, I don't think we think of Darth Maul as just Ray Park now. I think we very much think of him as Ray Park and Sam Witwer, as it should be. As it should be. All right. So we're going to get into it right now. We're going to talk about the special itself, the source material, some of the, I shouldn't say source material, but some of the things that it references, in some cases very heavily, and we'll take all that. We'll get all that on the other side of the bumper. Excuse me, I'm just so excited to be here. How are you all doing? All right, let's get into it. You know what time it is? It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
What do you say? Ready to be Castle Vader's official spokesman? You see what I did with your name there? I put the Poe in spokesman.
Feel the power of the dark side at the Empire Emporium, now open.
So Lego's Star Wars Terrifying Tales. A nice little treat for Halloween for Star Wars fans, without ever having to really reference Halloween or some kind of Star Wars version of Halloween. With the holiday special they did last year, it's obvious, it's easy to play off of Life Day. That's kind of there. That's kind of exists. It would be a little odd if Star Wars were just trying to start shoehorning all these other, real world kind of holidays and events into Star Wars. So I like the fact they don't even acknowledge it. Much like Kevin Scott's, Vader's Castle books, which this show is heavily inspired by. I mean, it takes place in Vader's castle. That's the entire premise of Kevin Scott's book, Tales from Vader's Castle. And it's a way to kind of tell these creepy, spooky stories. And I have a great quote from Kevin Scott that I wanted to share with you about his comic book that also very accurately describes, accurate may be too strong a word, but it sets the premise of what the comic book is and sort of what they drew from for this Lego special. So here we go. Quote, "You know how those spooky Halloween stories where a car breaks down and there's a creepy castle on a hill? Well, imagine a spaceship landing on a lava planet and the only place is a castle on a hill." And that's basically how this special opens up, because once we get like sort of the preamble with Vader and the Emperor, and we meet our sort of nemesis for this episode, and we fast forward at that point, right? We fast forward to many, many, many years later, is what I believe it says, and we catch up with Poe Dameron, and we catch up with Poe fighting the remnants of the First Order. And, an accident happens, and there's a little damage to his ship, and he has to land on a nearby lava planet with the castle by the hill. But obviously, because it's Lego Star Wars, it's not going to be all about like trying to scare the bejesus out of us. It's going to be more of a fun adventures. It's like a Simpsons Treehouse of Terror sort of thing. You're using kind of classic riffs. You're riffing off classic material to kind of tell these new fangled versions of the stories for Star Wars, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. By the way, I want to we mentioned his name in when we read off the cast earlier, but I really enjoyed Tony Hale as Vinny, the sort of bumbling apprentice who's trying to gather all these Sith artifacts to make himself more powerful. I actually really enjoyed that performance. I found it quite amusing, and that should be the thing that we say about this entire episode about Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales. It's really fun. It's light. It's easy. It riffs off of all of our favorite moments, some of our favorite lines. As Poe, let's kind of talk about the story a little bit. As Poe makes his way up to the castle because he has to get his ship fixed, we find a Hutt who's taking Vader's castle and turn it into like a hotel, a resort, if you will. And he has like the Vader statue, and the Vader statue says all the lines that we know so well. And we'll be playing those throughout this episode. So I'm not going to try to give you my Vader impression right now, but it's just a fun, light take. And then we get into the tales, and we have a sort of a Lost Boys riff with Ben Solo and the Knights of Ren. And this is the one that we mentioned earlier that draws from the Charles Soule comic book series that he did for Marvel back in, again, I think it was either right before or right after. I think it came out right after Rise of Skywalker, so like January 2020, something like that, right before the pandemic sort of kicked comic books and movies all to the curb. So it draws off of that, and not in a way that's necessarily too goofy, too silly of a spin on that comic book series. It's just not quite as serious as it was, but I mean, fairly faithful in many broad strokes. If you've not checked out that comic, I do recommend it. It's quite nice. It's called The Rise of Kylo Ren by Charles Soule. Very, very good stuff and fantastic art. I don't have the artist's name in front of me, unfortunately, but he is fantastic. Absolutely knocks it out of the park. I want to say it's Mark Brooks, but I should fact check that, and I will before the end of the episode. But they do a great job, and then you get Christian Slater as Ren, which is great. For a lot of Star Wars fans who don't go back and read the comics and read the novels and things like that, you're probably still curious who the hell the Knights of Ren are, and you get more of a sense of who they are. The comic book obviously dives into greater depth, greater detail, but it's an interesting, fun little story. And then that is how we begin working our way further and further into Vader's castle, uncovering more secrets of his castle, the secret lairs, the Sith artifacts. And it's just really nice. And I know I totally got off my track with Kevin Scott's Tales from Vader's Castle. So I'll go back to that right now. But that is a book I've been a fan of since it first got published in 2018. And it was one of these really unique entries. The Star Wars Adventure line being published by IDW Comics is just a fun, all ages kind of story. That's not continuity heavy, I guess is the best way I can describe it. Yes, everything kind of syncs up, everything works in a sequential storytelling manner, but it's not as heavy. There's not as much gravitas as the books that are being published through Marvel that are very month to month, that are very serialized. The Star Wars Adventure books, like you can kind of pick them up as you go along. Some things will connect to things that you may have read, or you'll pick up the book and you'll be like, oh, I wonder what they're referencing, and maybe I'll go back and find that issue. So Star Wars Adventures is a lot of fun, and Kevin Scott has gotten to tell a lot of really fun stories. Again, we talked about it last week. Him reintroducing Jackson into Star Wars Adventures was one of those treats for old fans like us who remember the old Marvel series from the 70s and 80s and were like, why is there a green space rabbit in Star Wars? What the heck? But he did it, and he makes it work, and it's fantastic fun, and it's really, really a joyful comic book to read. So I do recommend it. And again, if you're not into going into comic book stores or having, tactile material in your house, like maybe you're a minimalist, by all means, check it out on the internet. Go over to Comixology and read it digitally. Read it on your tablet or on your computer, on your phone. And check it out. It's a fun time. And these Tales from Vader's Castles, there's 2 series. There's Tales from Vader's Castles, and then I think it's further Tales from more Tales from Vader's Castle. And they're just 4 or 5 issues a piece, and they're fun. And they go through the entire continuity. You have stories with prequel characters. You have stories with the main trilogy characters. You have I think the Rebels characters are in a lot of the settings. Kind of setting the tone of the series as they kind of run through the castle and they hear these tales of Darth Maul with his spider legs. Something, again, that is also actually referenced in this episode. But yeah, it's just a really, really good comic book. And I recommended it to a lot of friends a couple years ago. And I got really great feedback from them, especially the friends with kids. Because it was a Star Wars comic book that wasn't too intense. Wasn't too rooted in the continuity, into the lore. You could just read it and give it to your kids and be like, here, have fun with Star Wars in a very safe, friendly, open environment. Again, where you're not going to be like, who's this, who's that, why is this happening, I don't understand. They're just right there for you. It's really nice storytelling, really clean and easy, but not simple, if you know what I'm saying. Simple is not the right word. It's just accessible storytelling. And that is what they did so well in Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, in my opinion. You don't need to be rooted down in a lot of Star Wars lore. You can just pop this on. That's part of the fun with a lot of the Lego movies in particular. Lego Batman is this way. The Lego movie. Lego Star Wars. The one with the crazy ninja ones. You can just watch those. It's cool. Like, I don't know a ton about Lego. I don't know a ton about some of the source material they're choosing to go from. I know Star Wars, though. But I don't have to know Star Wars inside and out. You can just pop this on even if you just know the movies. That's it. You get the references. You understand when Vader's when Vader's dropping all the classic lines. I find your lack of faith disturbing. See, I already did it. I already quoted Vader myself. You just know it. It's so fun and accessible and easy to watch. Your kids will love it. And I think if you are not too serious about yourself, you're going to have a good time with it too as a full-grown adult person. You can just watch this and chuckle and laugh and be amused. Because that is what this show is really there for.
I don't know.
Don't waste your time with him, Ren! The kid's a total Kylo!
Kylo?
Yeah, Kylo. Small, weak, scared. Kylo.
I'm not scared. I'm not a Kylo.
So that's a clip from the first Terrifying Tale, The Lost Boy, all about Ben Solo joining the Knights of Ren. We talked a little bit about it earlier. I did want to mention, because Lost Boys is a movie that I grew up with. I'm a big fan of. The scene where Ben, wearing the Kylo hat, is joining, he's hanging out with the Knights of Ren. He's not an official member at this point. He hasn't done anything to earn that just yet. So many great homages to the movie. The part hanging out under the bridge, hanging off of under the bridge, letting go, falling into the fog. And then obviously at the party at the beach with, in this, what is a shirtless Biff playing the Star Wars equivalent of the saxophone, which if you know Lost Boys, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. It had me howling. I kind of lost it with that scene in particular. And then it gets all dark and it goes back to, well, not dark. It gets all back intense. And it goes back into Star Wars stuff as we get into Luke's lightsaber destroying the temple, and Kylo kind of embracing the name Kylo. You heard how it starts off as an insult, and then later by the end of the episode, he rather likes being called a Kylo. So it's sort of a fun take on the origins of Kylo Ren, and I really did have a blast with this one. There's so many. Again, The Lost Boys is a very funny choice for the Knights of Ren. That's a movie about vampires. This is the Knights of Ren. They're just sort of marauders in a sense, I suppose. They take what they want, and they have Christian Slater as their leader. But yeah, that's a fun take off of that particular tale. And we'll talk a little bit about the next installment too, because it's all about Darth Maul, and I definitely want to get a clip in of Sam Witwer once again as Darth Maul. We haven't gotten there in our Star Wars: The Clone Wars recap episodes just yet, but Sam Witwer as Maul is just so much fun. So here's a clip of that, and then we'll talk a little bit about that terrifying tale.
I have returned, my master.
Hey, well, look at you. You're alive. Oh, and look, you've got legs. A whole bunch of legs.
Yes, so many legs.
No. Turn left.
Oh.
My left.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I will retrieve the saber of Skardont so that I may once again stand by your side.
Oh, you heard that.
So the second installment, the second terrifying tale is called The Dueling Monstrosities, which is a team up, a battle of sorts that I don't think any of us anticipated. No. Darth Maul, recently given legs by the Night Sisters on Dathomir, decides he's going to go back, get back into his former master's good graces, and he's going to have to fight against our favorite Clone Wars villain, General Grievous himself, for possession of a lightsaber. This installment I found to be, again, hilarious, because there's something just funny about the way Maul and Grievous go back and forth with each other. The battle itself, the way Grievous is ultimately defeated, the lightsaber being broken at the end, and then how that factors into when they uncover the lightsaber, when Poe and Dane uncover the lightsaber in Vader's castle to begin with, and how they tie it all together. It's again a fun little romp, but another element of Vinay getting all the components that he's looking for his ultimate power up, and this, again, if you're not seeing these elements coming together, we're not going to get into the plot points. It's not a heavy-handed one, but it is funny when Poe realizes what's happening. He's like, oh, I should have seen that coming. Another really fun little tidbit, little connective tissue for the episode itself. And again, Sam Witwer back as Darth Maul is just a delight, and the way it sort of ends, just amusing. And then the way that at the end, after Maul has delivered the lightsaber, he's fulfilled his part of the obligation, and he believes he's back in Sidious's good graces. The way Sidious just uses the Force push to shove him out the window, insanely good. The humor in that, if you're not picking up on those vibes, well, you are missing out on a good time. All right, we're gonna do another. I want to include another clip from the third terrifying tale that we have. One that is a classic tale, and I think we all know the story of the monkey's paw. We all probably we probably best know it from The Simpsons Treehouse of Terror, when Bart and Homer get the monkey paw and they pass it around, and all the different things that happen in Springfield, all the bad shenanigans. And that's exactly what this episode is, except it's centered around our favorite hero and rising Jedi, Luke Skywalker, getting his hands on the quote-unquote Wookiee paw from a familiar Toydarian, of all people. Because Luke gets to go to Mos Espa, something we've not seen him do in our prior encounters with Luke. So we're getting to see him go to a new place, a new setting, but to visit old characters, which is sort of fun as he crosses paths with his father's former slave owner. Yes, Watto does make an appearance in this, and he is the one who gives Luke the monkey's paw and sets his life in a very different direction. So I'm going to go ahead and play a clip, and then we're going to we'll talk a little bit more about it after that.
You look like you want to get off this dust ball planet. I got something that might help.
What is that?
The Wookiee's paw. Make a wish, and your dream instantly comes true.
I wish I was off this rock.
Hey, you look like you want to get off this rock. You should join the Imperial Academy.
So yes, indeed, this episode we focus on our favorite Jedi, Luke Skywalker. This time, instead of facing the risk of being corrupted and turned to the dark side of the Force, Luke is exposed and corrupted by the dark powers of the Wookiee's paw, as he begins to just wish for all the things he wants and not actually earning them or getting to them in the natural order, in progression, in a way that is satisfying to him as a person. He just wishes for what he wants. He takes what he wants without earning it, and it corrupts him and turns him into a very different Luke than the Luke we are all so very, very familiar with. What's fun about this episode, aside from it Luke being like a Luke that we will never ever see in any sort of continuity, is sort of the way that, like, once we dive into the period that is the film, that is A New Hope, the way the script is flipped on everything. And I was sort of intrigued by the idea of, I want to see episode 4, A New Hope, that doesn't have Luke in it, because Luke is already off at the Imperial Academy being buddy-buddy with Darth Vader. And there's a funny moment, obviously, when Luke goes from Stormtrooper to, again, we've referenced many great references of Luke being too short to be a Stormtrooper. He can't see out of his helmet. And then he wishes in on the monkey paw to be a pilot, getting promoted to a pilot. He does a maneuver that impresses Darth Vader, and they have a moment in the hallway together where Vader sort of gets distracted and ponders his former life. And it's really good stuff in there. I don't want to play all the clips from the movie, from these episodes, but a lot of fun. And then, of course, the big turnaround at the end, as Luke's getting more and more corrupted by the Wookiee's paw, and becoming more and more of just a giant space a poodoo, if you will. He wishes to be he wishes to be the most known person in the galaxy by doing something that'll make him so famous. And they reverse his role as a hero, where now he's working for the Empire, but he accidentally blows up the Death Star himself, and it'll be a moment of infamy for him as he tried to take the glory, and it blows up in his face, literally. But again, that moment that I talked about, we're doing the Death Star run, we're in the trench run, and then you have two X-Wing pilots that I think would be fascinating to explore a little bit more fully in another Lego special. Leia piloting an X-Wing on the trench run, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, James Arnold Taylor, returning as Obi-Wan, piloting an X-Wing in this one. No Han Solo, obviously no Chewbacca. We might find out he's the one missing a Wookiee paw on that one. But I'm like, what's this movie where Obi-Wan went off and rescued Princess Leia by himself, and apparently with no Han Solo, or at least a minimal effort from Han Solo, because he doesn't swoop in to save the day at the end. So a fun take, a very, obviously it's very hyper realizations, hyper imagining, if you will. It's like we're going to the extreme conclusions based off of Luke doing this, and this. But it's fun to see a corrupted Luke. It's fun to see a version of Luke that is just a bigger version of sort of like the big whiny kid who wandered off of Tatooine in A New Hope. And again, I don't say that as an insult to Luke. That is sort of the sort of perception by many that Luke he's very whiny when he's like, but I was going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. I don't buy into that theory. I'm just going along with it for the sake of this episode of the show. But that's our last actual terrifying tale until we get back into Poe's plot with Dane, as they now have to face against Vinay, as he's gotten all these elements together. He's all force powered up. They take the holocron, which is the final element, because Dane's able to activate it because he has force powers. And then we get resolution. Fun shenanigans, a fun climactic battle, Poe piloting an AT-ST. It's really good stuff. BB-8 flying flying the X-Wing after Dane's repaired it. And you get conclusion and lava, and you get teased with a sequel. And you can't get better than that. Because I would love to see this kind of go on. I'd love to see more versions of this show. Again, I think the Kevin Scott comic book, the Tales from Vader's Castle, is so full of possibilities, so much potential. And again, if you kind of take that sort of Treehouse of Terror from The Simpsons vibe, which I think is definitely in this special, I think you're going to have yourself a really fun time doing these kind of stories every Halloween potentially, which I would love to see, because you know what else is on that Disney app right now? All the Treehouse of Terror episodes from The Simpsons. Binge them, watch them, have a good time, and see something. Not all of them are great. Some of the later ones, but the early ones, seasons like 1 through 10, 1 through 15 even, there's some real gems in there, some real classics. Can't go wrong with those. So I love seeing that. I'd like to see this series continue. I'm very curious how you all felt about it. Did you enjoy it? Do you want to see more of it? Was it just a kind of a one-off thing? You're done with it? I don't know. What do you all think? The overall rating on IMDb is a 6.2, so not great. But again, some of us full-grown adults maybe aren't the target audience, and maybe we're taking this a tad too seriously. It's Lego Star Wars. It's fun. It riffs on the familiar. It presents us with some things that don't count. They're just joyful and exuberant. And I really dig that about this special. I really think you all should check it out. You can show it to your kids. You can watch it as a family. You can watch it on your own in a closet like I did. No, I didn't do that. I just watched it by myself in the living room at night. At night, so it wasn't even that terrifying. And I have admitted already, I am a scaredy cat. So don't worry, it's not like that. This is very all ages. In case there's any sort of hesitation on your parts, like, it's Lego Star Wars. It is super duper for kids. You're safe. I promise. And yeah, watch those Treehouse of Terrors too, because they're a lot of fun. All right, I think I've kind of covered everything I wanted to talk about directly as far as like the influences. I love that Kevin Scott and Charles Soule got a shout out for kind of influencing and contributing a little bit with their stories. And I'd like to see more of this. I'd like to see more. I don't know. There's a lot of possibility there. You know, obviously, at the end of this episode, the Hutts aren't the Hutt whose name I'm totally blanking on right now is not going to finish his, resort at Vader's castle. So the castle's still there. It's not going to be occupied. But think about it though. How much fun could it have been if he did stick to that plan of staying at Vader's castle? Now I get it. All right, I understand. Poe was there. Poe was like, no, you're not taking these Sith artifacts. You got to get out of here. But Poe's not staying there. He can't keep watching the place. You go back in there, you open a hotel, and then you come back next year and you do like Vader's castle as the Overlook Hotel. You do a riff off The Shining. That could be a lot of fun. And there is a little tiny Shining homage in this episode already. That kind of got me thinking of it. Great moment with when Vinay activates the battle droids and they're coming after Poe and Dane and BB-8, and one of the battle droids goes, knocks through the wall, pokes his head in, and and he says like his unit number, and it's like super super long, and it's really funny, but it's a great Shining homage. But think about that, if you did a Vader's castle, turn it into like the Overlook Hotel, you could set it up with somebody, Poe or another character, Finn even, being like the innkeeper for I don't know. You can't do the winter element. You could find a way to do this in Lego Star Wars. I'm just spitballing right now. This thought literally just popped in my head that Vader's castle as the Overlook Hotel could be a lot of fun. That's all I'm saying about that. Then again, maybe you'd be riffing yourself though, because you have to go back and do the "Here's Johnny" line with somebody else. Though it's Lego Star Wars, who cares? All right, we're gonna get out of here. I'm gonna play one little clip on the way out from the special, just to kind of wrap things up. But I hope everyone out there has a happy Halloween. Go have fun. Be safe as you should be. Even before the pandemic and super viruses and all this stuff. Halloween, you still had to be safe at Halloween time. There are scary individuals in the real world who want to put a damper on our fun. So always be safe, be smart, be responsible, but have a good time. Just be aware. And get all the good candies, and if you have extra Reese's peanut butter cups, by all means, send them to me. I will be happy to eat all of them. All of them. All right. We'll stop with that. I don't need to do any more Sidious impressions for you guys today. We'll be back next week on Monday. We're going to... scratch that. Sorry, old habits. We will probably not be back on Monday. Fingers crossed still, but it'll be Monday or Tuesday. I will post again on social media when I have more information. There's a possibility, though, we will be kicking off Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars rewatch this week, Monday or Tuesday. That is a very high probability for the next episode coming your way, Monday or Tuesday. Again, happy Halloween, everybody. And remember, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
I find your lack of souvenirs disturbing.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.